Okay, so good morning, everyone, and I hope everyone is doing well. And welcome to today's session. Please, is my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great, great. Rodney and Priscilla, can you please see my screen?
Yes,
Hello?
I can see your screen.
All right. Okay, great. Then I think we can go ahead and start. So, welcome to today's session, and today's session is on the introduction to natural language processing and its application to local languages. So, um, if I missed out your language in the with the greetings, I'm sorry, but yes. So, since we are dealing with local languages, Amaraba, Wezo, Akwaba, and Obake. If I have pronounced any of your languages wrongly, please, my apologies. Yes. So, um, the agenda for today's session is we'll be having an icebreaker, an introduction to Zindi and the session generally, and then a keynote presentation by our esteemed speaker, Mr. Mixer Owusu, a Q&A, and then we conclude with the session. Great. So, for the icebreaker, can we please join using the menti.com and then using the code that has been displayed? Thank you. So that we just have a quick icebreaker. Okay, so have we been able to join?
Yes, I am there. It says wait for us to start the quiz.
Yes, so
Hmm.
I would start it soon. Okay. Uh, okay. Yeah, great. So we can begin. I think we can begin now. Has everybody been able to join apart from Mixef? Has everybody been able to join? Priscilla, Rodney, and Bridget?
Yeah, I've joined.
Great. Great. So, warming up our minds before we dive into NLP. NLP is short for natural language processing. So, um, with this part of the icebreaker, I would like everyone to pin their location. If you're outside Ghana, that would be. I'm sorry, but we'll not be able to capture you. So it's just to give us a fair idea of where you're joining us from. Yes. So if you could pin your location on the map. Okay. I see a location that's outside Ghana. That's great. Okay. Um. Okay. Accra and Tema. Okay. Okay. Great. Great. All right. Have we all been able to pin our locations? Okay. Okay. Do I see someone around Central Region? towards Central region. Okay. Okay. All right. Great. Great. So let's move to the next item. So in this part, it's just to find out how much you know about NLP, basically. So this is a scale. So on a scale of 1 to 5, so if you strongly disagree, you indicate it. If you would strongly agree, you indicate it too. So you just click on the lines to indicate. Has anybody been able to? Great. Oh, okay. 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 All right. Okay. Okay. That's nice. So right now, I can see that we have people who are slightly familiar, somewhat familiar. Okay. Okay. Oh wow, we have an expert in the house. Please, who is our expert for today? Okay. And the laugh says it all, so I think we can proceed. Yes. Okay, great. Okay. Okay, so without Googling, type 3 words that you think of when you hear natural language processing. No wrong answers. Okay. Mm, wow. Wow. I'm seeing big words. Me, crab, not. I'm not seeing tokenization. Interesting. Wow. That's a big word. I think during this session, our esteemed speaker would enlighten us on what tokenization is. Okay, great. Then I think we have a fair idea about natural language processing. That's good to know. That's good to know. For those who are just joining, to join the icebreaker, you can go onto menti.com. Menti.com. I would put the code in the chat so you can Menti. So that you can partake in the icebreaker. Okay, so for those who are just joining, you can join. Hey, okay, I made a mistake. Yeah, yes. So you can join us as we continue with the icebreaker. All right, thank you. So great. So I can see audio, data, LLM, model, sentiment, tokenization, text, and images. Nice, wonderful, wonderful. Great. So let's move to the next. I would like to call this one NLP bingo. So I'm just going to try to ask a few questions about NLP and get your responses. So, have you ever used Google Translate, talked to Siri, Alexa, or Google Assistant, typed with autocorrect or predictive text, used captions or subtitles on a video, and chatted with a chatbot, customer service, WhatsApp, etc.? Okay? Okay? Okay. Nice. Nice. Super. 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 Okay, so I think a lot of us are familiar with, what do they call it? These services. So basically, these are services that have some, like, apply natural language processing. And I'm glad we are conversant with them and we've had some experience. So that means most of us here have had some experience with NLP. That's great. So let's move on. Okay, are we all ready? Shall we begin? Okay, ChatGPT for the win. That's nice. Next question. Okay, so with the um previous questions, so I could see a lot of people chose ChatGPT and Google Assistant. That means most of us have not really used Siri and Alexa. Okay, okay, so that's good to know. And then with the language that was added to Google Translate, so I would like to ask for expert advice. Mr. McSef, what was the answer to that question?
Yeah. So come again. Which question was that?
That was African language was first asked
Oh yes, yes, yes.
added? Yes.
I, I actually picked based on my own experience with these languages. I went for Afrikaans.
Okay.
But I don't have any clear facts on that, but I went for Afrikaans just because I know it's one of the most like in terms of African languages, it's the most supported, and from that, if you move from Afrikaans, you come to Swahili. But it's very possible that it did not follow that kind of Google didn't go that way, so I could be wrong.
Okay.
Mm,
Okay. 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 So, yeah, would you like us to check it out?
yeah.
Okay. Great. Let me- Okay. I'm not really getting any.
Yeah, Google is
Yeah,
getting confused. This is
it's
an
getting
NLP.
confused.
This is an
Yes.
NLP issue actually,
Yes. So I
because
think,
somehow Google is interpreting your text as a translation task.
yes, I'm confusing Google.
Well, yeah, you just discovered an exploit for Google.
Yes, yes, yes. Then I think we have to go to our old faithful ChatGPT.
Actually, Priscilla just posted something in the chat. I think
Okay,
Priscilla
okay,
ChatGPT it. Yeah.
okay. Then let's see. Let's see. Okay. So can Priscilla, can you kindly help us with the answer to that?
Um, yeah, so I checked and it said Swahili and Afrikaans were the two languages.
Okay.
So the first languages. I'm not sure which one came first. Let me check
Okay.
them.
All right, all right, all right. Thank you very much, Priscilla. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Mixef. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So, Mixef, you are right.
Yeah.
Yes, you are right. You are right. You are right. Okay, that's great. Okay, so if you could teach a computer, uh, so all those who chose Afrikaans too are right. Congrats. So if you could
Mhm.
teach a computer one African or local language, which would you choose and why? So Ewe is my native language. Okay. Oh, Ewe. Ewe has appeared twice. That's nice. That's nice. Okay. Fanti. It's my mother tongue and a beautiful language. Okay. Tree. It's my native language and it has a large data set. Okay. Okay. Awesome. 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 So I think Ewe, we need to start working on getting Mixer, we need to start working on getting an Ewe LLM.
Yes.
Yes, because I can see.
It's possible actually. Very
Okay,
possible.
okay, okay. That's nice. That's nice. Great, great, great. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this icebreaker. So we quickly dive into our session. Okay, thank you. So, so before we begin, I'd just like to go briefly describe what NLP is before I hand it over. So NLP is, which is natural language processing, is a field of AI that enables machines to understand, interpret, and generate human language. This is just the basic definition. So, pardon me if I do not, I don't give the technical terms. So, it powers tools we use daily from voice assistants and chatbots to translation apps and search engines. So, today, the reason for this session, why local African languages? So, I noticed that in Ghana, we are lacking when you want to actually translate something in your local language. You are finding it difficult because we don't really have the would I say the data right for it. We don't have any large language models around it. So this session is basically to educate us on how that can be made possible and what is actually going on in that regard. So most NLPs are built for global languages, leaving African languages underrepresented. Yeah, sometimes you want to know something. I am going here. You see the way Google just translated what I wrote into French quickly. But if I type it into Google translates something else like that. It's going to, and I ask it to translate it to Tree or Ewe or Ga. It's going to give me something totally different. And that is very distressing. And it's annoying. It's annoying. We too, our languages are spoken and we can use it for all these literacy and advocacy initiatives. So that is the main reason why we are here today. Yes, so it's developing NLP for local languages will preserve our culture, one, improve access to information, and also ensure inclusive AI that serves African communities. Because we need to also AI is a global thing, but we also need to centralize African AI in a way, yes, away from the global, because we need to be part of it. Yeah. So why do we showcase real world projects? So real world AI or ML NLP projects bridge theory with practice. So they just show how data driven solutions are tackling real challenges from healthcare and education to climate and business, and also inspire participants to innovate their own context. And with NLP, basically, it's important to showcase these projects because there aren't so many NLP projects out there. So we need to showcase them so that everybody can see what somebody is working on. And if you want to collaborate, I mean, collaboration is together we can achieve more. So collaboration is key. So if you don't share your projects and you are working on it and probably you are not well versed in the part of NLP, you will not get somebody who will be able to support you with that. Yes, we need to come together and also bridge communities, right? To bridge the gap, to connect communities, and then we can actually make impact in this space. Yeah, so basically this is why NLP and why now. So I'd just like to quickly brush through who Zindi is, because this event today is proudly brought to you by Zindi. I'm a Zindi community ambassador. For those who are just joining in, my name is Tiasuma Mensa Emora, and I'm a Zindi community ambassador. And today's event was brought to you by Zindi, AI Ghana, and Ghana NLP. So I'd just like to briefly talk about Zindi. Yes, and then our speaker for the day would also uh, briefly talk about Ghana NLP. So Zindi has built one of the largest, or if I dare I say, the largest AI and data science community in Africa, with over 75,000 registered data scientists from across the globe. This platform serves as a bridge, linking talented individuals with companies, NGOs, and governments while opening global opportunities for young Africans. Yes, so basically, Zindi is here to bridge that gap and also link, like I said earlier, connect. So it's linking talented individuals with global companies, NGOs, and governments. Because you see, in Africa, we are usually pushed away from the global world when it comes to the tech space. Even if you are applying for a job, you are constantly, are you authorized to work here? Are you authorized to work here? It's stressful. It's stressful, but Zindi is trying to bridge that gap in the field of data. So we have an all year round program where we organize events constantly through our Zindi Ambassador Network, right? And then these events include workshops, hackathons, webinars, and meetups. So in 2024, we aim to reach over 5,000 students, up and comers, and professionals across Africa, and we were successful at doing that. On Zindi, data users of all levels can build their skills in different technical areas, evaluate their skills, and get placed in high quality jobs as data scientists, analysts, or engineers. But more importantly, the platform connects like minded enthusiasts and professionals across Africa and the rest of the world. So, yes, basically what was said in the previous slide. So with Zindi, you can get started with machine learning basics. We have courses on there where you can learn from, dive into advanced data science skills like computer vision and NLP, and then test what you have learned on challenges built with real world data, and also follow custom learning journeys and get recognized. With Zindi, you can also compete to earn money. So we have challenges every time to earn money. Currently, there's the indigenous challenge, the Ghana and Intel Indigenous Challenge, whereby indigenous ecological indicators, like what farmers use to predict rainfall and all that. So there's a competition that's ongoing where we participants are using that to predict rainfall. Yeah, so there are so many of that. Even recently, we just had with Yango Group Accra Mobility Prediction Hackathon at the University of Ghana, and it was also done last year. Yeah, so with Zindi, you can connect with an incredible community of data professionals and enthusiasts all across Africa and the world, and then build your professional network on the platform. A professional profile on the platform. You can also market yourself, find and apply for data science jobs across Africa and internationally, and also become a mentor to others. We have a chat where you can help people who are new in the game or people who want to know something about participating in the competitions and all that. You can also, through the chats, mentor people there. Yes. So, Zindi's impact in Ghana. Over 500 participants Ghanaian participants have solved problems through real-world problems through competitions, workshops, and hackathons, like the Ghana Crop Disease Detection Challenge that just ended. Yes, it ended, I think, earlier this year. Then the Accra Mobility Prediction Hackathon, and then the Ghana Intel Indigenous Challenge, which I just talked about. So at Zindi, we empower the youth with mentorship, internships, and global exposure, where we turn talent into career opportunities. So Zindi is just driving local innovation and shaping the next generation of Ghanaian data scientists. We are active in 40 plus African countries and provide access to data sets and AI challenges while fostering partnerships with so many companies, Microsoft, Google, UNICEF, and so much. So participants gain a direct pipeline to jobs and internships, contributing to inclusive AI talent and development. To inclusive AI talent development recognized worldwide. And through cross-border collaboration, Zindi drives real-world AI solutions that are shaping industries globally. So some of our milestones: 75K plus users, 27% women are in our community, and that's a very good number for Africa, because a lot of should I say, women are not represented in the tech community, and in the field of data, it's even lower. So it is a very impressive number. And in Ghana too, I know there are lots of ladies part of the Zindi community. There are so many ladies part of the Zindi community, and that is what we seek to achieve, to make um make underrepresented groups have access to all these opportunities in the data science field. We are present in 160 plus countries and have hosted over 218 competitions and hackathons. So these are our socials: Zindi Africa on Twitter, which is now X, Zindi on LinkedIn, and then at Zindi.Africa on Facebook. And then this is the website too. So now to the main event. So I would like you guys to help me welcome our esteemed, experienced speaker for today, Mr. Mixef Owusu. He is the Ghana community lead for Ghana NLP. Mixef, I hope I got that correct.
Community lead for GhanaNLP.
Yes, I hope I got that correct.
Yes, that was perfect.
Yes, yes, yes. So I would like to ask you guys to, with a round of applause in the chats or a reaction, just help me welcome Mr. Mixef, because he is going to be taking us through today's session.
Yeah, I am seeing the virtual claps. Thank you, guys. I can literally
Yes.
hear it as I see these emojis.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for setting me up, Tesuma, and yeah, I think you've really already said a lot of things that lead us into the conversation.
Okay.
You know, NLP, I was just checking actually. I asked ChatGPT to tell me how many Africans speak their local indigenous languages exclusively, and they don't speak some of those languages which tend to be more official, like English, French, Portuguese, Arabic. And actually, ChatGPT couldn't give me an answer. And I think that when you go online, you're going to find that yes, it's difficult to actually get the answer for that. But the truth of the matter is that there's over 50% of our population in Africa, they do not understand some of these large, widely available languages that we have on our computers, on our apps, in AI. And it's not just about AI, these are people who cannot access basic information, right? So think about it. If you think about that person you know in your hometown who speaks just your language, a lot of us already mentioned Ewe, Fante, mine is Chi. I know many people who speak just that language. And when you go online or when you read an article on Joy News on their online web platform, I just want you to think about all that content. All this content, those people cannot access it. There's a lot of people who they just understand those local languages. And even though we know a country like Ghana and many African countries, we've done well with this universal primary education. So many people can actually look at alphabets, right, and make out the words. But when it comes to English, being able to comprehend it is a problem. So when we are having to provide content to them in English, we are totally cutting them off, as opposed to if we were to provide them content in these local languages, we are actually going to empower them. They are going to actually be able to use that basic education that they got. As it is now, there are so many people who have kind of gone to school to maybe primary level, secondary level or so, and they may not be able to really understand and comprehend the content, whether it is about, something about national interest, something about how our country is being governed, or all the way to the constitution. Think about it. Our constitution is in English, right? And this is all over Africa. So there is a great need for us to look at natural language processing as that bridge that helps us to translate content into our local languages so people can actually understand, and make good decisions based on this information that they are getting. Yeah, as this now, we are just relying on campaigns that go out there and then they translate just a small amount of content. What if these people could also go out on the web and browse and see things and understand the same way you understand things? Think of all the information you have, ingested, that has made you, come to the level where you are now with all the skills you have. I often think about some of the people I used to meet in town when I was in Kumasi who take care of the phones. They are very good at fixing phones. And most of them, those guys, I think they had not really gone to school, for many years. Some of them had basic education. And they had learned this as a trade. They had learned fixing phones as a trade, even though fixing phones, you need to really be someone who understands manual. You have to read because there's a software aspect to it, there's a hardware aspect to it, and manufacturers are actually providing guides, right? But these guys had learned it basically as a trade and they were just doing it by try and error. Why is that? Because they could not access, important content. Like they could not read the manuals. If it's an iPhone they are fixing, they can't go on YouTube and watch a video. There's all sorts of content out there that could help them, but they can't. Um, these people are the same people who could also be taught to code, probably. They could learn to code. They could be data scientists. Why can't they be data scientists? The fact that they don't speak English does not mean they don't have intelligence. They do have intelligence. Clearly, we see it in action. They are able to fix our phones and all of that without even reading manuals, right? There are people who are mechanics who are able to fix car engines without ever reading a manual. How much more empowerment could they have if they could access content in local language, just so they could actually also grow their knowledge? As it is now, our informal economy is stagnant. They are not able to increase their knowledge because they have to rely only on, content that has been translated for them. And this is very, very little. They can't just go out there and explore on their own the same way we are exploring. We talk about the internet age. We have the internet, we have access to the internet. Well, for so many people, the only access to internet they have It's social media where they are only seeing content which is probably understandable to them, but for them to access knowledge that helps them to upskill their own skills and to do better, provide more value. They don't have access to that. So, I can talk a lot about this, but I wanted to set the scene for you to understand that we are dealing with something very critical. For many, many parts of the world, the fact that someone does not speak English or French or other languages does not mean they cannot actually be a professional. In our part of the world, this is the case. There are so many people who are just limited or they can't be effective enough just because they don't have, very good knowledge of English. That is such an unfortunate situation. And I think we do have that opportunity through NLP to be able to empower people to just understand content, but to do stuff, to be able to code in local language, to be able to, do so many things. Now that we see what AI can do, all those things can be brought, to all the over 50% of our population that just speak exclusively indigenous languages. So I think that is something that is important to keep in mind, when we think about NLP, and if you want to be a part of it, if you want to really grow your skills in it and you want to use that as a way to contribute. Let's think about the people have living with disabilities, people who don't have access to who are visually impaired. NLP is going to be critical for them. In our case, if someone is having these disabilities and they don't also speak English, they are in deep trouble, right? Because they can't have Google Assistant read stuff to them. Why should this be the case? Yeah, I think whenever we are looking at it from this perspective, it can give us that motivation we need, right? To kind of put in the work and see what comes out of it. And the reason why I think we need motivation is that you can't go into NLP thinking about setting up a business. I know we see all the startups who are fundraising, the AI startups who are getting millions of investments. NLP is not that way. NLP for many, many countries has always been a very non-profit work, because a lot of the stuff you develop for NLP are not things that people should pay for. You know why? Because most of those stuff are essential. They are like they are just essential stuff that people should have access to. And most cases, they are public goods. So you really have to look at this as something that you are going into to really kind of for the better good, and not necessarily as something that you are going to probably be able to make so much money out of. I know it sounds appealing when you think about, okay, maybe I can build an AI model for tree or something, and I'm going to make a lot of money. No, because there are so many people out there who need this, but those people have so many other issues to take care of that they are not going to be willing to maybe pay for this. So it helps for you to be able to go into it with the right mind, thinking about creating public goods, creating software, creating tools, creating data. That helps for us to get to that end goal of making knowledge accessible in our indigenous languages. And I would like to start by saying that a lot of the AI hype we are seeing right now, it's really important to understand that we, in our own corner of the world, we have our own journey that we are following, and it's not necessarily at par with what you are seeing, or, every day you are seeing models, you are seeing this can do this can do that. A lot of those what you're seeing has come as a result of years of people building, tools for NLP, people building data, people creating the data and, doing all that work. And now they are building on that to be able to actually, build these models that we see. On our part of the world, we are still at that foundational stage where we need a lot of people. We need more people focusing on creating that foundation that helps us to get to that point. But unfortunately, at this time, it can be tempting, I think, for people to want to be ML engineers. There's nothing wrong with that, to just go into training models and doing all of that. But if you want to train a model and you don't have the data, then how do you do it, right? Recently, in one of our meetings, in one of our GhanaNLP meetings, someone who shared their work, they are building something for agriculture, something that helps farmers to, understand diseases, crop diseases. And they had built a powerful model that can actually look at the leaves of plants and actually be able to predict the disease that is actually, that is in the farm. But then they ran into an issue. The issue was that they could not make that content accessible in local language, right? So this is a big issue that everyone who is building these models is going to have to deal with. If you are building for our local context, you are going to have to really put in some work. It's great to focus on the modern stuff, the models, the chat GPTs, and all the prompt engineering and the generative AI. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to also contribute. You have to have a certain kind of goal to also contribute to open source projects that are going to help to make our local languages accessible. Why? Because no matter the model you build, if the end goal cannot be translated into a way that our own people can understand, then you have a big problem. So we have to kind of look at this as something that goes hand in hand, and so it's quite critical for us to keep investing while also looking at some of the modern things that are happening. And let me even give you a simple example, another simple example. Someone also said in one of our meetings that during the election, one of our recent election, they were trying to actually look at sentiment for of people around in Ghana. What were they saying? What were they thinking about in terms of the election? And how were they feeling about it? They were really excited about this project. They wanted to go forward and do a sentiment analysis, because sentiment analysis is one of the most popular natural language processing tasks, right? And so they went on Twitter, they scraped the data, and then guess what? When they analyzed it with the AI models, they found out that the results were terrible. Why? Because they found that even when they were looking for English text that has been put by Ghanaians, they realized that Ghanaian English is not necessarily the same as your average English that the English people will speak, right? Because when we speak as Ghanaians, we mix in local terminology. So you may have a post that says, this election, I'm going to make sure I get some money through my Momo account. That is where your AI model, your ChatGPT gets confused, right? Because there's something there called Momo, and ChatGPT is wondering, what is Momo? Because Momo for us means mobile money, but it's not something that these models are trained on. So you realize that even the basic NLP tasks that we may want to do, something as simple as being able to understand the sentiment of citizens, this is something that most developed nations do on a regular basis, like being able to understand, even if you are trying to scan to understand threats, right? Security threats. You want to look online and see people who are posting bad stuff. It's difficult for us to do it with our context. Even if it's in English or it's in local languages, it's difficult because we don't have the models. You want to do something as simple as even identifying languages. Okay? Ask this now. When you go on Google Translate, you're able to put text and it says auto detect, right? It's able to help you to know which language it is. There's a lot of our languages where we don't even have those basic models to identify the language in the first place. So if you don't identify the language, how do you even take a step to even process text in that language, because language identification comes first when you are working on any natural language task. The first thing is you have to be able to ID the language, and then you apply the natural language processing rules for that language to the text. So, and interestingly, building language ID models is one of the easiest. So if you were looking to also be able to make your input and be able to say that you have contributed, I think, and you want something which is easy, which is not going to be too difficult, I think building a language ID model will be probably something to look at. It's very easy. I built an ID model for Chi because I needed it for working on Chi data sets. You go online or even you get a large data set. Maybe I found this data set on NHS, the British government. They do publish some of their health records in Chi language and in many other languages. But the challenge is most times you have this content being mixed with English. And so to be able to screen out the English, I had to build this model, which I passed all that text through, and then it was able to help me to get a clean data set that I use for my work. And I think this is something that we are experiencing with a lot of our languages. We do not have the foundational models. We do not have the foundational models that we need to actually, first of all, identify the data we need, right? So you may have already heard a lot of talk about our languages being low resource. Actually, I do not believe that our languages are low resource languages. The low resource that you hear there is referring to the data aspect. Low resource there means we have very limited data on our languages. That's what we all used to think. We all thought that our languages didn't have data. And then Facebook decided to do a project called No Language Left Behind. In that project, Facebook created certain models. Of course, they have the compute power, right? So they were able to scan the internet, and they just basically looked for sentences. They first built models to identify languages, and then they found sentences in English. They found sentences in all these other languages like Chi. And then they built translation models out of nowhere. It was like magic. All of us were thinking that, oh, there's not enough data. But then they showed that you don't need that if you can build models that can scan through a large amount of text. You can actually extract, content for almost any language that you want. And I encourage you to check out, maybe some of you may have already used that model that Facebook built. It's one of the best models out there when it comes to translating content. Unfortunately, they had to focus on specific languages. So for Ghana, they picked Chi and Ewe. They did it for over 40 African languages, but for Ghana, they did only for Chi and Ewe. And so that means we do now have very solid open source machine translation models for Chi and Ewe that allow us to do so many other things. It goes beyond just machine translation. So most times I think we think about NLP, and maybe you are only thinking about, oh yeah, we want to help someone to translate their content into a language so they can communicate, right? That is great. But it goes beyond that. Currently, I'm working on a project where I'm trying to train a model to learn how to support users to code in Chi. So why is this a natural language task? Essentially, you are thinking about the programming languages that we use, right? And a lot of people, they can understand the programming terms, but when they need support, like if they wanted to go on ChatGPT, I do it a lot. Like I go on ChatGPT and I say, okay, this Python code I'm working with is running into this error, but I need some help. For so many people, just to troubleshoot that, they'll have to be quite eloquent in English. And for someone who may not be eloquent in English, all of a sudden they can't have access to this great tool we have when we use ChatGPT for programming. So I'm basically having to take questions and answers So questions that data set that contains questions in programming and answers to those questions. And then having to translate the instruction part. So I'm not touching the code part, and that's what is making it very difficult. So basically, I'm having to translate, I'm using this Facebook NLP model, but I'm skipping the code, right? Because like if you translate a Python code and it has, say, strip, right? The strip code in there. The strip code is a Python, language. You can't translate that to tree. You're going to destroy the code. So having to write that code has been very difficult. But that is the task that you are going to be dealing with if you're thinking about natural language processing. Essentially, you're going to have to be thinking about data and how you shape the data to build good models. But it's quite empowering, actually, if you think about it. The beauty of you building your AI career from an NLP base is that you are not going to be one of those people who see a model and then you just complain that, oh, the model is behaving in a way I don't understand. You may have seen that, like, even, I think Tesuma mentioned that, like, sometimes you put stuff in Google Translate and then it gives you a response. And then you're like, whoa, why this response, right? You don't understand. If you are someone who learns this scale of natural language processing, because you're going to be the one creating the data, you're going to be able to also learn how to build models that behave in a certain way. Because models behave based on their data. The data that is used to train models is what determines how models behave. And as it is now, I think that is the biggest limitation of artificial intelligence as it is. As much as there's a lot of hype about AI, there's also a lot of worry about it. And all of that worry is about uncertainty, about its outputs. So if you tell a government to use AI for a particular function, their main concern is, fine, I know that like 99% of the time, this AI model is going to be correct, but that 1% of the time, what is it going to do? And that is what they are always worried about. So that whole uncertainty about models is because you do not control the data that is used to train it. You don't understand how it was created. And so it behaves in a way where you can't control, right? And it also comes from a lot of the engineers that we have, the AI engineers, because they don't want to go through the natural language processing part, they go straight to fine-tuning. So you're going to hear a lot of talk about fine-tuning. Fine-tuning is great, but when you go into fine-tuning, you are usually building on other languages. So a lot of our tree text-to-speech out there, for example, I'm someone who currently believes that none of the text-to-speech models we have out there are good enough. And you may also agree with me, like you put text in it and you realize that it just does not speak in a way. Nobody wants it like to be perfect like a human, but at least something that will help somebody understand, right? We don't have such models. And I know I work with GhanaNLP that has one of the best models, but we still have a long way to go. And part of the reason is that most of our models at the moment, we are having to fine tune. I mean, in general, most models are built from fine tuning existing models. So if someone wanted to say build a tree text to speech model, they will go for an English text to speech model, and then they will run a lot of tree data on it. So basically, when building a text-to-speech model, you need audio data and corresponding text data. That's what you need for building text-to-speech models. And people tend to start from the English model. They'll pass a lot of English tree or any other language. We call them parallel data sets. So they will just run all that parallel audio and text data sets over that. And then they end up with a text-to-speech model. That helps you to go really fast. So a lot of our engineers right now, they are learning a lot about this fine-tuning. The problem though is when you fine-tune to build these models, because the base is still a foreign language, there's always some issues. So that's why when you are listening to the text-to-speech models, you hear that all of a sudden the accent or the way it's saying something is not great. It's because we're having to fine-tune. If we want to build from scratch, then we need people who are going to really get their hands dirty, people who are going to go into the natural language processing. And what do I mean? You want to build a text-to-speech model for your language, or you want to build a machine translation model for your language. How do you start? How do you start? Basically, you go out there, go on Google. There is an API, actually. Google has an API where you can use to run search programmatically. Go on Google, find keywords. Look for keywords in your language. Type those keywords. So I have this data set on Hugging Face that I published recently. It's about 330,000 sentences in the Tree language. And this is the process I used to build it. I basically searched for terminologies like COVID-19 yare, aduane, common words. And then I searched Google for those terms, and Google brought up results in like documents that contain those words. And so that helped me identify, sources that contain, tree text. I took those, most of them I got were PDFs. So I took all those PDFs. I ran a Python code to extract that text, but that's why you have to always realize that when you're dealing with your local languages, it's never like automatic, okay? At every point in time, you're having to do something that is specific for that language. So first of all, let's think about how I started. You first have to define terminologies, keywords, right? That you are using to search for data in your language. After you get those sources, the documents, you are going to write codes to extract that text. The code you write has to be specific for your language. So if you just go online and look for any notebook for tokenization, what you are going to realize is you run that notebook, and then the result you get, it has removed a lot of your text because most of those are programmed for English language. And so sometimes they are going to omit words that contain those special characters that we use. So like in Tree or in Ewe, we have our own special characters. So you cannot use the generally available notebooks and even tools. You have to always either edit them or write your own code. And that shouldn't be a problem. I feel like now that we are in the AI age, as long as you are curious and you are not scared of running code, you just have to get over the fear of running code. I am not a trained software engineer, and I don't still consider myself a trained software engineer. Actually, I am trained more in international development. So, as I'm speaking to you, I'm in Addis Ababa. I just came for a conference where I'm helping the African Union with some work they are doing on teacher development and the portal. Most of my work was in knowledge management. But I'm saying this just to let you know that you can still do a lot without even being a programmer. The fact that we have AI that can help you to, first of all, even understand or to write code, if you decide to do it, you can do it. So yeah, you basically have to have a code that helps you extract that data and put it in units. So that's what we call tokenization, right? It's very important. Being able to get that bulk data, most times they are in PDFs. So when you are tokenizing, basically you're putting it into sentences. And that's very useful because then when you are training your model, you're able to pass those through the model and the model learns. And then you are going to have to look for parallel text for that. So let's say you found a website like I did, this British website that has the content in your language, you've managed to get that. You've managed to tokenize it into sentences. Now, you can also go to that same website and look for the English versions of those same documents. And then you tokenize that as well. And then someone is going to ask me, okay, now I've done that. How do I create a parallel data set? Because that's what you need for machine translation models. You need a parallel data set, right? Where you have, say, this sentence in Tree or your language, and then you have the other sentence. Say if you are building a model that translates to English, then you have the other corresponding sentence in it. So in a CSV file, in your data set file, they have to be aligned. And basically, you can still solve that problem by building another model. And there are models out there. I talked about Facebook's tool that they built and how they were able to solve this problem. They built models that allow you to actually create alignments. It's like a brute force model. So you basically, okay, so let's say you have 50 sentences in Chi, okay? And you have another 50 English sentences in English. You write a code that creates all instances where each sentence matches to each sentence in one part of your data in one language corresponds to every sentence on the other side. I don't know if it's getting confusing, but what you're going to also realize about natural language processing is that it is basically mathematics. So you say your first sentence says Kofi is a boy, right? And you have, no, let's use a tree. So let's say on this side you have tree. So the first one says Kofi Abema, right? On this side, you have another 50 sentences, including one that says Kofi is a boy, the English side. But when you're dealing with a large data set, you do not know, you don't have them aligned. So what we are trying to solve here is to get them aligned. And the way you do that is you write a code that maps the Kofi Abema to every single English sentence on this side. And then you do the same for all the sentences such that you have all the possible combinations between all the sentences. If you manage to do that, you are already getting to the solution. So basically, this is what Facebook did. And now there is a model that you can run that can perform similarity checking across languages. So they call it laser. That's what Facebook calls it. You can look it up, LASER. You can then run that model, and it's going to calculate the similarity between the various mappings that you have. And in the end, you can pick those with the highest similarities, and you're going to end up with actually aligned sentences. So Facebook did this for they ended up with they ran this for like 150 million sentences or something, like an absurd number. And then that's how we ended up with the NLP machine translation model, which can translate over 100 languages. And it's like actually one of the best out there. It speaks very well. And so from what I'm saying, I'm just telling you that there is a way, there is always a way. Don't look at the situation and say, oh, there's not enough data. There are ways to actually also find data. There's also synthetic data. There's synthetic data. And this is very, very, very true for those of you who may be interested in training speech recognition models. If you want to train speech recognition models, there are ways to generate synthetic data using text-to-speech models. But of course, to do that, you're going to need to have a good text-to-speech model that can generate good voices. And that can be very helpful for training, speech-to-text models as well. So I guess my point here is if you wanted to do something, you can, but you have to be willing to do so many things that don't necessarily get you to the end goal. So like I've said, you can start by training a language ID model. It's very easy. You can use a tool called Fast Text, and that tool basically, if you have a list, if you've managed to go through the process of going on Google, finding all sorts of text for your language, you've tokenized it, you can pair that with English text and then run this fast text model on it. So basically, what your data needs to look like if you wanted to train a language ID model, you have to have, say, if you found, say, 1,000 sentences for your language, find also 1,000 English sentences. Okay. And then it depends. So in our case, we are going for English as the opposite or the the one that is not in your language, because most of the cases you are going to be trying to filter out English. So if someone is in Francophone country, they're probably going to use French. So for training the model to see things that are not in English, that are not in your language, you are going to probably use English. But maybe you may also even put in some other Ghanaian languages, right? Because maybe the text you're dealing with may also have a mix of other Ghanaian languages as well. So you're going to have that data set that has those text that is in your language, and you label them. You label them as your language, and then you have those that are not in your language. If you have a good balance, say 50-50 is good. So say you could have 50% being those sentences in your language, you have 30% being, say, in English, you have 20% in other languages. And then basically you run fast text model on it. I think I do have a GitHub repo out there for the tree ID model I did. If you're interested, I can share it. But basically you run it for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It depends on your data. I had about 300,000 sentences. I used 1,000 chi and 1,000 non-chi, and I ended up doing it in less than 15 minutes. Very fast. This is what it takes. This is all it takes, and you have a model that you can use to start, right? You can use to actually accurately identify text in your language. And it's very important because if you want to move to the next step of actually training a model, you're going to need very clean data, and most of the data we get is not clean. So once you get this ID model, the next time you find some nice PDF that contains text in your language, you just tokenize it. You don't care whether it has English mixed with your language. You don't care. You just tokenize it, and then you run this model on it, and you can extract. So the next thing you know, you're already building a huge data set, for your language, a corpus, as we call it. And that becomes something that can be built on. So even if you don't want to go the full process like Facebook, where you're trying to do magic literally by orchestrating the data and making data, show where it didn't exist, literally, this is still a very useful tool to help those who want to still go through the manual process. So I know that there are initiatives out there that are willing to even provide funding for us to have human translation of content. But can I tell you, there's this problem where even when they have people who want to volunteer, literally just volunteer to translate content into local languages or to translate content from Twi to English, they do not have the Twi text. Like, people don't have like actual content written in Twi or in your language to actually use for that. So that's why I said from the beginning, you are going to do things that you are doing for the greater good. So some of you may have seen some of the data sets I've published. This is why I've published it. And it's good that you start from a perspective of doing things open source. So you publish that data set. Someone else can take that data set. They are going to be able to, use that and maybe build this Facebook laser model for that language that helps you to ID and compare that language with other languages and build a machine translation data set. Or even those who are just looking for people to annotate that data set into English or just write, indicate whether they are translate them into English. They are going to just be able to start from somewhere, right? So at the moment, even if you have people who are willing to volunteer, you have to ask them to come up with their own 3 sentences and also translate again, which is just difficult to do. So whatever you are able to do counts. And it's very important to start from being able to make a corpus available, at least a clean list of sentences in your language, which is tokenized. And then you publish that. You can keep building on that, keep building on that, keep building on that. And there's so many things that you can do, once you have that. So yeah, I think that is really the essence of what I wanted to share. My goal for this call was to be able to inspire you to not first of all think of yourself as not being able to contribute. There's so much that you can do if you have the will and if you understand the need. And you just have to start, right? You start from somewhere. Yes, start looking for data or something, tokenize it, and make it accessible, publish it. And then others can also have access to it and they build on that. And the next thing you know, you're already, building something for your language. And there's so much data already available, okay? You don't have to start from scratch. Okay. One of the best sources of data is biblical data. The Bible has been translated into 54, I think 43 Ghanaian languages. So which probably most of us on this call, your language is included. So if you wanted to build a machine translation model for all these 43 languages, at least a base model that can at least perform well to a point, you can actually. It's very possible. But we don't just have enough people who can do the work, because what it will take is you have to run a code to go to these Bible websites and scrape the data. Okay, so we do have some code out there. GhanaNLP has published recently. There's a repo on preparing data for text-to-speech model training. If you need it, you can reach out. We'll share it. But it contains code for extracting this data. So you can actually use this data, get it from the Bible, and you are ready to train a machine translation model right from scratch. So I think you can also explore that, look at some of these biblical data sets. And you also have, at the same time, audio data. Most of these translations have audio data as well. So you can also get the audio, train a basic text-to-speech model. It's possible. It's just not enough people to do it, okay? So like when you see some of the work I am doing, I'm having to focus on tree. It's not because tree is the only thing we can work on. All these other languages have data that can be used, but we don't have enough people to actually run the code and to do it. So yeah, you can definitely use that data and work on that. Yeah, I already explained the process for the data you need for machine translation, parallel data sets, right? So you go on these Bible websites, you're able to run a code that gets your language and the English. You get that, you run it through this very popular model out there called GhanaNLP. You don't have to do the work. People have already done the work for you. Okay, so if you see anybody that calls themselves an AI engineer or an ML engineer, most of them have not built the tools they use. So we have tools that you basically use the same way you're going to use an office application. It's click. It's just clicking a button. Like if you are running a notebook, you're just clicking play. You run the notebook and it does the job for you. And even if you have to run code, it's very minimal. So like if you had this parallel data set of your language plus English, you literally pass it through this MT, and it will run, train, and you have your model. There it is. It's as simple as that. If you want to do that and you run into issues, feel free to reach out and we can support. And the same thing with building text-to-speech models. There are many, 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 many options out there. And none of these require you to do heavy lifting. Actually, it's very easy when I think about like building software to building models. It's easier to build models than software. You have libraries out there you can use, and you can easily just like for text speech, I use Piper. There's a framework, a library out there called Piper. It helps you to train a text to speech model if you have the text aligned with the audio. Yeah, we do have a repo on GhanaNLP with all the tools you need to actually gather that data. And if you wanted to get that data together, you can do that. And you run it through Piper. And Piper does all the job. You end up with a text-to-speech model. So it's not difficult. A lot of the work comes from the data. So a lot of the work that you have to put in will come from preparing the data and sometimes being able to understand how the language works. So you have to be willing to also go into linguistics, right? A bit of linguistics. And so not working, maybe accommodate those. And those are some of the things you're going to be dealing with. And you end up with something good. So yeah, I think I would like to end my talk here. And I'll hand it back to Suma in case there are any questions on the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mixer, for that very, very, very insightful and knowledge-packed presentation. I really learned a lot, and thank you for explaining my big word, tokenization. Today I've learned a lot of words, tokenization, corpus, and I'm sure everybody here has learned so much, and that is why we are here today. Right, we are here to listen to an expert practitioner of NLP. He has been in the game for a long time, for a long, long time. So he's a seasoned NLP practitioner, and we are so happy to have had him here. So, come yambo nsem ma yeah speaker no, because forgive my tree, but since we are doing local languages, yambo nsem, yes. Thank you very much. This has been a very, very wonderful session, and I learned a lot, and I hope everyone too learned a lot. I hope everybody learned a lot, like I have. Yes, so this is great. This is great. Mixef, I wanted to ask, you mentioned something about data sets. Is there a way, like, would it be possible if anybody is interested on this call, maybe you could put in the chat so that they can access it?
All right, yeah, I'm going to put in the chat my Hugging Face repo. Like, I have so much data that I've published. You can start from there. And then if you need more data, if you really want to work on a project for your language and you need data, I can help you to create that data, or I could probably even create that data for you. So, but yeah, I already have some data sets I've published that you can check out, and yeah, I'm sharing it in the chats very soon.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And also, um, if any of us wants to join Ghana NLP, how do we join?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Look for me on LinkedIn. I'm going to put my LinkedIn profile here. So you look for me on LinkedIn, and I know I've already seen some Ghanaian NLP folks on the call. So for those of you who are not a participant of our community, if you want to do that, you're most welcome. You just look for me with this link. I've just shared my LinkedIn and send me a message, and I'll send you all the details you need to join the community.
Great. Thank you so much. So, um, so basically today we were taking through the basics of NLP and its applications, its importance of local languages, and then the real world impact that it has, and through projects, and then we're taking through a deep dive into NLP. Yes, so I'm guessing everybody right now can say yes. Today, if any of us on this call is asked to explain NLP, we are not going to do it layman explanation. We are going to give the technical explanation because we have been filled with the wealth of knowledge from our seasoned NLP practitioner. Yes, thank you very much. And then, so now, before we get to our Q&A, I just want to say a few things. I'm encouraging all participants to join Zindi and engage in NLP challenges, and also to join Ghana NLP and be part of the Ghana NLP community, to be participate in challenges, projects, and be just generally be part of the community, right? Also, like myself mentioned, explore open source NLP projects. That is how it is done. Open source. Open source is how we get everything. When you go on GitHub, most of it is open source. Without open source, I don't think we'd even have a single AI or NLP model. We won't have any. So yes, please, everyone here, explore open source models and practice. Engage, be active, not just come on this call and then after this call, then you just forget it. No, be a part of the community, be a part of the NLP community in Ghana. Yes, and also, again, like myself mentioned, contribute to data sets for local languages. Contribute. You can use the Bible like he suggested, but contribute. Whatever language you are, maybe probably your language is maybe Sisala or Kasina, a language that is not really out there. Contribute so that we would have more. The more data we have, the better for us, because we need data to train the models. Without the data, we can't train any models. That is why the global languages like English and French constantly are improving on their models, because they have the data. So do not hoard the data. Partner with people. Try to ask people questions. You can even talk to your grandparents, your parents, whoever. Ask them to explain certain things to you in your language and contribute to data sets for us. Connect people to data sets. That is how we will grow. That's how we'll be able to actually make an impact when it comes to our local languages, right? Yes, so I think I've said so much. So let's just go straight to the Q&A. If anybody has any questions, they can feel free to ask me or Mr. McSef. The floor is open now.
Thanks so much. Yeah, in case anyone wants to come on board, while they come on board, let me just quickly add that whatever you create, even if it's not perfect, please publish it. Whatever data you create, whatever model you create, if you create an ID model for your language, even if it's not perfect, you tested it, it worked like 50% of the time, 50% it got it wrong, publish it and just indicate it in the notes, like, yeah, this model performed at this level, and release it. There's so many people who have built stuff that they just keep it on their computers because they say, oh, I'm using it for my own project. When you release that, someone else will discover it, they will build on it, and it will become something good. Like, people don't have to always start from scratch. This is the problem we are facing. Like right now, if I want to go online and look for a model that can identify error, I search and I can't find it. It's not because people have not built it. They've built it, but it's just on their laptops, and they're like, what's the point of publishing it? So that's a big a contribution you can make. Even if you make it's not perfect, publish it and indicate that this is how it performs. And then someone else can, build on it. If it's data you've put together, even if it's like 100 sentences you're able to gather, publish it. Someone else is going to take that data and they're going to, build on that. And that's how we get to the point we need to be. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that addition. So, do we have any questions? You can, by the show of hands, if you have any question, you can just raise your hand and then. Okay, there's a question in the chat from Rodney.
See something in the chat from Rodney. Yeah, he said he wanted to work on NLP forever because most of his friends actually don't know how to speak it. Yeah, it's a great point. And I have the same, dilemma. I have to force myself to speak Cree with as many people as I can because after being away from Ghana for a while, now I can't speak it well. And even those of us in Ghana, if you're just speaking the average conversational, um, like Ewe with your friends, you are probably not always learning all the additional vocabularies that you need if you want to like you want to use Ewe in a broader aspect. So let me give you a typical example. Most of us, we may speak a local language and we may think in local language when we are communicating with people. The language you think in, it matters a lot. And most of us may be thinking in local language when we are communicating with people. But when we have to code, when we have to program, we have to think in English, and that is, you can keep your fluency of a language by thinking more in it. So if you were thinking in Ewe or in Chi when you were writing code, that would be a way of actually practicing your language, right? But to do that, you have to have a model that helps you to actually program in Ewe. And for a language like Ewe, it's actually possible because Facebook has a solid model out there. All you need to do is to take questions and answers in code, translate it using that model. It will take a while. And that's what I should have mentioned. NLP takes patience. Okay. So some of the code that I've run to create data sets, some of them can take like days. Some of them can take like 3 days. And it's not about throwing a lot of GPU. It just doesn't work. You need to have the patience. So you run code for say 20 hours, you get a nice 500,000 sentence data set of question and answers of code in Ewe. And you fine tune a model. You can fine tune some of these models out there. Currently, for a project I'm working on, I'm fine tuning. There's the Quen model. It's released by Alibaba. And that one was trained to be multilingual. So I'm having to fine tune that. And so far, I'm having some interesting results. It's something that I want to kind of share with the GhanaNLP community soon. So yeah, and you can, yeah, basically, if you can build models in the Ewe language, you can actually end up having to practice it more. So, yeah, that's the way we can actually increase there's even a lot of videos, there's content. Think about all the content. There's a project I also have in mind, which I've not even started. Do you know we have like 100,000 plus news content in Ghana? Is it all in English? Go to Ghana Web, go to Joy News. It's all in English. And yet we have models that can translate very well Ewe and Chi because Facebook helped us out. For the other languages, I'm sorry, we have to start from scratch. But even for Chi and Ewe, all you have to do is to run an NLP model on this content. But to do that, you have to think about tokenization and other things, right? Because the model have limits. So say you tokenize, you translate, you put them back together. And you could literally publish them so that all of a sudden, this content that we have all consumed only in English, you can consume it in your own local language, and others who also don't understand English can also read it. It's a very simple project. So sometimes some of the NLP work is not always about building models. Sometimes about using the existing models to actually solve the problem, right? So in this case, there's so much content out there. It's not just the news. There's Wikipedia content out there that can be translated using the existing models. There's a lot of videos out there. You can create subtitles for them in our local languages. Some of our languages already have text-to-speech models. They are not perfect. But if you wanted to create audio, so you've already found some nice Wikipedia articles on farming, right? You've done the first step of translating them to Ewe. What's the next step? You can find an open source text-to-speech model. Most likely you'll find for Chi and Ewe. It's not perfect, but you can run those through it. You tokenize it, run it through that model. It will create for you nice short clips of that. You merge it into one nice, audio file, and you can publish that with the articles. Because we know that our languages tend to be more of spoken languages, right? So people tend to listen more than to read. That's it. You publish it online, and all of a sudden, it's not just about everybody coming to that site. There are people who are implementing programs on the field. It's great if they can go online, just search for farming articles in Ewe, and they can find something, and they will do the job of distributing it. You don't have to worry about that. But first of all, we need to do that work of, making that content available in those languages, publishing it open source, open access, and then let people find it. And so, yeah, that's also another aspect you can tackle. We already have models, and see how you can use those models to solve the problem.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rodney. I hope your question has been answered to your satisfaction. And okay, great. Rodney, thanks you so much, Mr. Owusu. Yes. Yes, great. So, do we have any other questions?
I see Priscilla has a hand up.
Okay. Priscilla, you can unmute and speak.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I feel like I'm getting smarter every second you speak. So I wanted to know, I've built a project in NLP. I think my first and only project. I was thinking of how to advance, and I wanted to know, like, how exactly do I know maybe this is a very good model to use? There are so many models out there, and not just for the local languages, just on a general scale. Like, how do I know that this is actually a very good thing to use? How do I know that this project is going to be um something very useful? I was because sometimes when you're talking to people, they have a certain model they've tried using, and they're like, yeah, this works better than most. So I want to know that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. No, thank you so much, Priscilla. And I think you've even brought up a point which wasn't kind of covered, and that is the need for us to test the existing models we have. And there's not enough work being done on that as well. GhanaNLP recently, we decided to do something like this where we tested LLMs, several LLMs, and still work in progress. But that's why we did that work. Currently, it's very difficult to find benchmarks of existing models. So you mostly have to ask people. So I do get questions. People ask me, okay, like Mike, which model do you use? Which one do you trust most for like machine translation? So I'm going to say, like from my experience, if you're looking for great machine translation for like Ewe tree, use the Facebook NLLB. Facebook NLLB has different flavors. So the models, they have the 3 billion one, 3 billion parameters. That's a huge model. That performs the best. Then they have the 1 billion and they have the 600 million. Now, if you're doing something like this content that I talked about, you want to translate articles, farming articles, you want to use the 3 billion model. The 3 billion model, if you loaded it directly on a Google Colab notebook, so basically you need a GPU to run that model. A GPU is a graphical processing unit. So you can get access to a free GPU on Google Colab. So they give you access to a GPU called T4. It's Tesla 4. We call it Tesla 4 GPU. That memory, the memory of that GPU, if you loaded the NLLB 3 billion in that, it will crash. So what we do is we have quantized versions of those models. So I use a quantized version. I can even share it. I should even have published it on Hugging Face, my bad, but there's so many quantized version already. I have just downloaded a copy. Actually, I can even find a link for you. So you can use the quantized version. If you search Hugging Face for NLLB 3 billion, 3B quantized, you'll find it. Otherwise, write to me, I'll help you out. And use that model, you're going to get good results, and it will still be able to fit in a free Google Colab GPU. So the way Google Colab works is you get about 4 hours and 30 minutes runtime every 24 hours. So you could do all this for free and you don't have to pay a dime. You basically run it when you're out of units, you stop, wait for like the next 24 hours. It will reload, it will refresh. You have more free time. You can use, you run it again, you run it again. In like 15 days, you have a whole lot of content that you can publish. But I'll strongly recommend using the NLP 3 billion model, a quantized version for machine translation into Tree and Ewe. And then if you are doing speech, you want to do text to speech translation. For Chi, there is one out there. It's been trained actually by a lady. She works with Google, I think Google Ghana. We used to rely on one trained by a lecturer in University of Ghana. It's called Gift Mark. Yeah, so if you look for Whisper Akan on Hugging Face, you may have heard Hugging Face, Hugging Face. Yeah, so Hugging Face is where all those open source models are. So that one is okay, but it's not perfect. It has quite some fine-tuning to go. But there's one recently I discovered. I'm going to put the link in the chats. That is for actually for ASR, automatic speech recognition in Chi. Okay, so one way to also create data sets for your languages, if you have automatic speech recognition models, like in this case, for the model I'm talking about, you could literally plug that into radio. That's actually a project that I worked on recently, and I've packed it. So basically, I wrote a code that listens to the radio. So the Ghanaian internet radio, it's listening to it and it's transcribing it using that model so that I can create. I need like, because I realized that most of our data sets are more like the written written data sets, and you need the one that people speak, right? So um basically, you can use that if you want to do ASR, automatic speech recognition in Tree. For Airway, unfortunately, I have not seen a very good performing model for Airway, but there'll be some out there, and I'll say the only way to find out with those is to test. The only way is to test, and when you do the testing, you're already contributing. So when you test those models, basically run some inputs, right? If it's an ASR model, run some inputs into it and then see how it performs. It picks up those words, and then you can test it and publish it, like and put something out. It can even be a Medium article or something. And ChatGPT is going to read that so that next time I ask ChatGPT which model is good for Chi, it's going to use that content you publish to help me out. But I'll say yeah, when it comes to text to speech, which models are great? I'm going to be honest with you. There's not enough grades. Text to speech we are lacking. I can't recommend any very high quality text to speech models if you wanted to translate your content. But if you search on Hugging Face, no, actually, I'm going to post that also in the link in the chats. That one is not on Hugging Face. There's a free text speech model for Tree and I think for Ewe. I'll put them in the chats. They were trained by, I think, Kokui. There's this project out there, an open source project, and they train models. Isn't it interesting? Most of the models we are using were trained by people who don't even use our languages. So that's unfortunate. But I'll share the link and you can use that, at least see how it works. But I feel like we have a long way to go with the text to speech because it doesn't sound good enough. I'm actually working on some projects with that. So hopefully if everything works out, we'll have some very high quality models. But I'll say it's all right to, publish it even if it's not perfect, right? And something is better than nothing. But I'll say at the moment, you can publish something which is very, very high quality in text. Like for the machine translation, if you wanted to do something in Chi and Ewe, with the NLP, you can get very high quality content. With the speech, if you did it, it's for short sentences. So most of the text speech models, they will do well if you are just doing very, very short sentences, right? Like instructions, 3 word, 4 word, 5 word. As soon as they go beyond that, they tend to go in a way that it distorts the meaning. So yeah, I'll say machine translation could be a good way to go if you want to just translate content. And yeah, for the rest, we just have to keep sharing ideas. If you discover something, I'm always searching. So When I find, I share. And if you also find something, you just share it with others who are asking. And that's how we'll keep going. And I think one great thing we can do is to have benchmarks, right? You can publish a simple README file on GitHub, just a README file with the models you have tested and the results, and just a simple commentary on how they perform. And then that is a great resource for somebody who is looking for information of this nature.
Great, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've also learned a lot. Do we have another question? So I think Priscilla has asked a question, Rodney has asked a question. Felix, do you have any question for Mr. Mixef? Oh, you're good. Okay. Think that's all the questions. I think, yes, we have no more questions. So great. Thank you so much, Mr. Mixef, for this wonderful presentation. When you talked about languages that are not really out there, even me, my local language, right, Dagbani. I'm a Dagomba, Dagbani. I don't see it anywhere. So I would like to also start working on it because I am in the sustainability space where and then I want to use data and AI for sustainability campaigns and initiatives and also for climate literacy and advocacy. So as a basically a week, when I go back to my hometown and I want to educate them on maybe climate issues, right? And there's maybe the people cannot read English very well, but they can read Dagbani. It will really help. It will really help. So I think I would also like to start working on a Dagbani data sets and then also a project on Dagbani, a Dagbani NLP project. And with your help, I know. We'll work on it together. We will collaborate on it together. Yes. Because we really need to have our local languages out there. Yes. And I'm also hoping to see. Okay. Felix, well noted. Thank you. Yes, well noted. So I'm also hoping to see more collaborations coming from um from um from everyone on the call today. I'm hoping to see collaborations between everyone here. Maybe Priscilla, Rodney, Felix, you could collaborate on something with Mixef. I could also collaborate on something with me, Mixef. I've just sent an open proposal to you for a collaboration, and then we could just work together, right? To do more. To do more. Like that's why I said at the beginning, together we can achieve more. It's all about collaboration, connecting people, and then also sharing knowledge, which is what Mr. Mixef does. Connects people, he shares knowledge, and he creates impact. And that is why we are here today. Yes. So so thank you so much, Felix, for your response. Yes, and we are happy to have you available here and then part of the session. So with the chat, has everybody been able to access the links that have been put in the chat? From me and then Mr. Mixef, before we bring the call to a close, has everybody been able to access the links and also copy the links before we proceed to move those? Okay.
I'm copying them.
Okay, sure. Okay, that's okay. So kindly let us know when you are done. So yes, this has been an amazing session, a very, very insightful, knowledge-packed session, and I'm so happy to be part of it. And thank you so much, everyone, for coming to the session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you, Felix, and thank you, Priscilla. And a very big thank you to our esteemed, experienced speaker, Mr. Mixef Owusu, the community lead of Ghana NLP. Thank you all once again. And thank you to Ghana NLP too, the whole Ghana NLP team. Thank you too for making this possible. Yeah.
No, thank you, Tesima, for bringing us together. And yeah, I
Yes.
also really appreciate everyone on the call. You made it fun, we know that not everybody could have joined live, but having you here made it fun. So yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great conversation we've had, and others will also benefit from it.
Yes, yes, that's great. You're most welcome. So, since Priscilla is done, I think we can bring today's session to a close. In the absence of any other questions or with all protocols observed, I think we can bring this session to a close. And thank you again, Mr. Mixef. As for the thanks, I am heavy on it because, yes, you've taken time out of your busy schedule to join us on a Saturday. Saturday, you should be relaxing, but you've joined us, taking time out of your busy schedule, and we are really grateful for them. I can see so many reactions, so I can feel the energy in the room. Everybody is has gained a lot. Everybody is actually gained a lot and is so happy. Yes. Yes, yes, it's been a wonderful session. Great, great. So, without any further questions, then I would like to bring this session to a close and thank you everyone for joining. And please do enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Please do enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Um, we may have I think we may, Mr. McSev, we may have to have a part two of this
Yeah, no,
particular session.
absolutely.
Yes.
I'll have to do it. I'll have to do it. Yeah, we can arrange it for sure.
All right, all right, all right. So a
Mhm.
follow up so that we get practical and then we can even get practical and collaborate in breakout rooms and all that. I think we can look at something like that. Yeah.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Wonderful. All right then. Please do enjoy the rest of your Saturday and till the next time we meet. It's bye from me. Bye
Mhm.
bye everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.